Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are delighted to share with you different stories about love and betrayal from around the world. Now, let's begin today's journey of stories. That Sunday morning, sunlight streamed through the curtains onto the floor of our apartment. I was in the kitchen preparing coffee when I heard keys turning in the door. Claire was back, pulling her suitcase behind her. We hadn't seen each other for 4 weeks. This was her longest attendance at the so-called self-exploration camp. I had expected to see a relaxed smile on her face, but her expression was unusually serious. "Daniel, we need to talk." Her voice carried a cool determination I had never heard before. We sat down in the living room, and she placed her hand on her lower abdomen, taking a deep breath. "I'm pregnant," she said, looking straight into my eyes. "It's Eduardo's child. I've fallen in love with him, but I've decided to come back and live with you, hoping you can accept this child." My world collapsed in that moment. Claire continued talking, saying Eduardo was the spiritual guide at the Freedom Camp, how special their relationship was, how he awakened a suppressed part of her inner self. She even suggested that accepting this child would prove my open-mindedness and evolved soul. I listened silently, then stood up and walked to the study. From the safe, I took out all the evidence I had collected over the past month. Private investigator photos, Eduardo's criminal record, Claire and his communication records, testimonies from other women at the camp, and most disturbing, evidence of her plan to transfer my savings to their joint account. In front of her, I dialed the police. "Hello, I'd like to report a case of fraud and extortion." The color drained instantly from Claire's face. 5 years together. We had no children, but had always planned to start a family after our careers stabilized. Our life wasn't luxurious, but comfortable enough. A 2-bedroom apartment downtown, vacations twice a year, occasional dinners at upscale restaurants. I wasn't a workaholic. In fact, I always kept my promise to return home before 7 p.m. and tried not to deal with work matters on weekends. I enjoyed cooking with Claire, and on Sunday mornings we often had breakfast together at a nearby cafe. We shared a circle of friends, occasionally hosting small dinner parties or attending gatherings. Claire was 2 years younger than me, an interior designer. Smart and creative, she could always transform ordinary spaces into something unique. We met during a renovation project for my company's office. Her design philosophy impressed me, while she was attracted to my sincerity and reliability. Our relationship developed naturally. I proposed after 6 months, and we married half a year later. The first 3 years of marriage were wonderful. We were compatible and supportive of each other, quickly resolving any disagreements. But subtle changes began to appear in the 4th year. Claire started exploring new ideologies, attending various spiritual and self-improvement workshops. Initially, I didn't object, believing they contributed to her personal growth. "These workshops helped me discover my more authentic self," she often told me, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You should try them too, Daniel." I attended a few times, but honestly, those activities made me uncomfortable. The unconditional freedom and breaking traditional constraints promoted by the instructors sounded more like excuses for selfishness and impulsiveness. But seeing Claire's joy from these experiences, I chose to support rather than criticize. Last autumn, Claire began feeling dissatisfied with her career. "I feel trapped, Daniel," she said one evening as we sat on our balcony. "The same clients, the same projects, the same limitations. I need a breakthrough." I encouraged her to explore new possibilities, even offering to support her taking time off to reconsider her career direction. But she seemed dissatisfied not just with work, but with our entire lifestyle. Around this time, her friend Valentina mentioned a freedom exploration camp in the Mendoza Mountains. After her first 1-week experience, Claire returned like a changed person. "The energy there is incredible, Daniel. They teach us how to break free from socially imposed roles and truly listen to our inner voice," she described excitedly. "Eduardo, the camp's founder, has amazing insight and helps everyone find their true gifts." Over the next few months, Claire attended 2 more short camp sessions. Each time she returned more convinced she had found her true self. She began questioning our lifestyle, our values, even the nature of our relationship. "Marriage shouldn't be binding, Daniel. True love means supporting complete freedom for your partner," she told me one evening. I remember asking her, "Does freedom include the right to hurt each other?" She didn't answer directly, only saying, "True freedom never hurts anyone because it comes from love." At the time, I didn't fully understand these words, but looking back, they were a clear warning sign. 3 months ago, Claire proposed attending a month-long deep freedom camp. This was a major decision. She needed extended leave, and the cost was considerable, nearly $3,000. "I need this experience, Daniel. It could be the turning point to finding my true purpose," she pleaded. Despite my reservations, I agreed. How naive I was then. I thought this was just a phase in her journey, that she would satisfy her curiosity and return to our life together. The day Claire left, I took her to the airport. She hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes. "Thank you for understanding, Daniel. I love you," she said. That was the last time I heard her say she loved me. During the first week after Claire left, everything seemed normal. We connected daily through video calls, and she enthusiastically shared the camp activities and beautiful natural surroundings. But by the second week, our calls became brief and distant. She began mentioning Eduardo's name, describing how he changed her way of seeing the world. By the third week, she hardly answered my calls, only sending brief texts saying she was fine and in a deep experience. I started feeling uneasy, with intuition telling me something was wrong. As an engineer, I'm accustomed to analyzing problems and finding solutions. I began investigating this so-called freedom camp. Information online was limited, mostly vague praise and mysterious descriptions. But on an obscure forum, I found different voices, mentioning women being manipulated and brainwashed at the camp, with some even referring to Eduardo taking advantage of his position to have inappropriate relationships with participants. This information left me restless. I contacted a private investigation firm to look into Eduardo's background and the actual situation at the camp. Meanwhile, I logged into Claire's cloud account. I knew her password because she had written it in our shared notebook. The detective's report and my own findings were shocking. Eduardo Vega, real name Carlos Mendez, was wanted for fraud in Chile and Peru. His freedom camp was essentially an elaborate scam targeting middle-class, dissatisfied married women. His pattern was to establish trust as a spiritual guide, develop intimate relationships, and eventually persuade these women to transfer funds to him. Claire's emails confirmed my worst fears. Her relationship with Eduardo had long exceeded the boundaries of student and teacher. More disturbingly, I found multiple inquiry emails about our joint accounts and investments. She was preparing to transfer our savings. But what truly broke my heart were the intimate photos and videos of her with Eduardo. Those images, I cannot describe how I felt seeing them. Claire looked so happy, so at ease, completely different from when she was with me. I could have contacted her immediately, questioning everything. But my engineer's mindset told me I needed more complete evidence and a thorough plan. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered all information I could find. Eduardo's criminal record, testimonies from his previous victims, Claire's emails and communications, evidence of fund transfers, and most importantly, the legal status of the camp. I contacted local police to understand the reporting procedures. I consulted a lawyer to prepare for possible divorce. I even reached out to several of Eduardo's former victims, gaining their support and testimonies. When Claire told me she was coming back, I was ready, but I hadn't anticipated she would return with such an absurd request. Now that you understand the full background, let me continue with that decisive day, that Sunday when Claire returned. "What are you doing?" Claire's voice changed from panic to anger. "You can't do this." I calmly continued the call. "Officer, I have evidence proving Eduardo Vega, alias Carlos Mendez, is operating a fraud organization. He uses the so-called freedom camp to lure women, develop inappropriate relationships, and swindle money." The officer on the phone said they would send someone to record the details. After hanging up, I turned to Claire. 3 weeks ago, you attempted to access our joint investment account. 2 weeks ago, you opened a new account in Mendoza. 1 week ago, you transferred 5,000 pesos to Eduardo. Tell me, Claire, how much money did you plan to transfer to your spiritual guide? Claire's face changed from pale to red. "You spied on me? How dare you invade my privacy? Did you consider my feelings when you betrayed our marriage and planned to steal our savings?" I opened my laptop and played a video, Claire and Eduardo, intimately close in a camp tent. "Your freedom exploration looks very thorough." Claire finally broke down, tears streaming down her face. You don't understand, Daniel. Eduardo helped me discover my true self. Our connection is on a soul level. Yes, I fell in love with him, but I chose to come back to you, to give you a chance to accept a new way of life. The three of us could find a harmonious way to coexist. I laughed coldly. Harmony? You mean I earn money to support you both while you immerse yourselves in soul connection? Claire, Eduardo isn't a spiritual guide. He's a habitual criminal who specifically targets women like you. I showed her the private investigator's report, including Eduardo's criminal records in Chile and Peru, and testimonies from his previous soulmates, all deceived in similar ways, then abandoned. Claire shook her head, refusing to believe. These are all lies. You just can't accept that I found true love. Eduardo is special. He truly understands me, and you never have. His way of understanding you is seeing you as an easy target for manipulation. Tell me, Claire, did he tell you that you were special? How your soul shines? How your connection is unprecedented? Seeing the expression on Claire's face, I knew I had hit the mark. This is his standard script, used on every victim. And I'm sorry to tell you, you're not even the only one this month. I played another video showing Eduardo engaging in almost identical intimate interactions with another woman at the camp, using the same compliments and promises. Claire's face finally showed signs of wavering. Impossible. The police will be here soon, Claire. I suggest you think carefully about your position. You can continue defending a manipulator who played with your feelings and planned to swindle your money. Or you can assist the investigation and mitigate potential legal consequences. What legal consequences? I only fell in love. No, you participated in a fraud scheme. You attempted to misappropriate joint assets. And I produced another document. Eduardo's camp violates at least 7 health and safety regulations. As one of the organizers, you signed documents and must bear responsibility. This was partly true and partly false. Claire did sign some documents, but her legal liability was limited. However, I needed her to realize the seriousness of the situation. I didn't. She began to object, then remembered something, her expression changing again. Those were just consent forms for camp activities. They clearly indicated your role as assistant guide. Prohibited substances provided at the camp are also listed in the materials you signed off on. Just then, the doorbell rang. 2 police officers stood at the door. The next few hours were a nightmare. The officers recorded my statement and reviewed the evidence. They told us Eduardo had already been detained for investigation regarding another fraud accusation. Claire was asked to go to the police station the next day to give a statement. After the officers left, the apartment fell into a terrible silence. Claire sat on the sofa, looking a decade older than her actual age. Why, Daniel? Why do this? If you don't want to accept the child, we could divorce. You didn't need to send Eduardo to prison. I looked at this woman I once loved deeply, feeling an indescribable exhaustion. This isn't just about the child, Claire. It's not just about your betrayal. It's your deceit, your willingness to throw away everything we built for a stranger. I thought I knew you, but now I realize I never really did. People change, Daniel. I found my true self at the camp. No, Claire. You were manipulated at the camp by an expert con artist. But what breaks my heart more is how easily you were manipulated. This says so much about what our relationship meant to you. She tried to argue, but I no longer wanted to continue the conversation. I've booked a hotel room. The apartment is yours for now. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow to discuss divorce details. I picked up my pre-packed bag and walked to the door. Claire suddenly called after me. What about the child? If it really is Eduardo's child, what do you plan to do? I turned for one last look at her. Get a paternity test. If it's not my child, then it's none of my concern. I won't raise another man's child, especially when that child is the product of betrayal. Walking out that door, I felt a strange relief. Despite the heartbreak, at least the truth was out, and I no longer had to live in lies. In the hotel room, I emailed my company requesting a week off. Then I called my most trusted friend Miguel, briefly telling him what had happened. He immediately offered to come stay with me, but I declined. I needed some time alone. The next few days were a whirlwind of legal and emotional turmoil. My lawyer Anna efficiently handled the divorce application. Claire tried to contact me several times, but I directed all communications through my lawyer. The police investigation progressed quickly. Eduardo's fraudulent activities were more extensive than I had imagined. At least 12 women had been victimized, with a total amount exceeding $100,000. Claire was investigated as an associate rather than a primary suspect, but her reputation in our social circle was completely destroyed. A week later, I returned to work. Colleagues kindly avoided mentioning my private affairs, though office whispers were inevitable. I focused on work, accepting a project that required 3 months of travel. Leaving Buenos Aires, away from those painful memories, was exactly what I needed. Before leaving, I received a letter from Claire. I initially wanted to destroy it unread, but finally decided to see what she had to say. In the letter, Claire admitted her mistakes and apologized for her betrayal. She explained she had done a paternity test, confirming the child was indeed Eduardo's, but she had decided not to keep it. She asked for my forgiveness, hoping that someday we could at least be friends. I didn't reply. Some betrayals cut too deep. Some wounds cannot heal. Perhaps years later, when memories aren't so vivid, I might find the capacity to forgive. But now, I just needed to move forward, rebuild my life, and learn to trust again. This is the price of love and betrayal. It can destroy years of built trust in an instant, leaving scars that take much longer to fade. The 3-month project trip was harder than I expected. During the day, I immersed myself in work, checking drilling platform safety systems, discussing technical details with the engineering team, writing detailed reports. But at night, alone in my temporary apartment, memories and nightmares followed me like shadows. Claire's betrayal was like a dull knife, repeatedly cutting into my self-esteem and trust. I began questioning myself. Could I have done something different? Were there signs I should have noticed earlier? Was our marriage really as wonderful as I remembered, or was that just my wishful thinking? My project supervisor, Fernando, noticed my condition. One afternoon, he called me into his office. "Daniel, your work is excellent as always, but I can see you're struggling," he said frankly. "I've been through divorce and know how it feels. If you need professional help, the company has resources." I thanked him for his concern, but politely declined the counseling suggestion. My engineer's mindset made me believe I could solve this problem through logic and time. However, recovery isn't a linear process. Some days, I felt I was getting better. Other times, a song, a scene, or just a whiff of perfume would pull me back to that painful Sunday morning. When the project ended, I made a decision not to return to Buenos Aires. Too many memories, too many familiar places would remind me of everything I once had and lost. I applied for a transfer within the company and was approved to join a new project in Cordoba. During my first month in Cordoba, I focused on establishing a new routine, finding a comfortable apartment, familiarizing myself with the work environment, exploring the city. I started morning runs and enrolled in a photography course, a hobby I had always wanted to try but never realized in my busy married life. In some ways, this fresh start was healing. But I also understood that merely changing external environments couldn't completely resolve internal pain. One evening in photography class, I met Gabriella, a university professor teaching social psychology. She was intelligent and straightforward, initiating conversation with me during breaks. "Your photos have a special sense of loneliness," she commented, "as if you're searching for something through the lens." Her observation surprised me, as I had never realized my emotions were so clearly reflected in my work. Our conversation shifted from photography to life, and I found myself sharing more personal experiences than intended. "Betrayal is one of the hardest wounds to heal," she said, "because it not only destroys a specific relationship, but also how we view all relationships." Gabriella suggested I join a small support group she facilitated, specifically for people who had experienced significant betrayal. Initially hesitant, I eventually decided to try it. The support group met weekly, with members from various professions, some experiencing marital betrayal, others business partner deception, and some facing betrayal from family members. There, for the first time, I felt truly understood. These strangers offered no judgment, no cheap sympathy, only genuine understanding and resonance. Meanwhile, Eduardo's case continued to develop. My lawyer regularly updated me. He was charged with multiple counts of fraud, with solid evidence. Surprisingly, Claire became one of the prosecution's key witnesses. She provided detailed testimony, exposing Eduardo's manipulation techniques and fraud patterns. 6 months later, the trial concluded with Eduardo sentenced to 8 years in prison. News reports covered the case, describing it as an elaborately designed scam targeting emotionally vulnerable individuals. I avoided media attention but felt a small comfort that justice had been served. Through the support group and gradually rebuilding my life, I began to accept everything that had happened. Not forgiveness. I wasn't sure if I could ever truly forgive Claire's choices, but acceptance that this was part of my life story, a painful but growth-inducing experience. A year later, I received an unexpected email from Claire. "Daniel, I know you may not want to hear from me, but I need to tell you something. Eduardo's trial is over, and my role in it has concluded. This year has been a period of deep reflection and remorse for me. I've been in therapy, trying to understand what made me so easily manipulated, why I was willing to hurt the only person who truly loved me. I won't ask for your forgiveness, because I know that's impossible. But I want you to know that I deeply regret my actions and suffer for having hurt you. I've accepted that we can never rebuild, but I hope you can find healing and happiness. You deserve all good things, Daniel." Claire. I read this email several times, my emotions complex. In some way, this letter gave me a sense of closure. Claire was no longer that brainwashed person who refused to acknowledge her mistakes. She had grown, recognized her errors, though too late. I replied with a brief message. "Claire, thank you for your honesty. I'm also learning to move forward. I hope you find peace. Daniel." This was our first direct communication since the divorce, and also our last. Sometimes, the best ending is to quietly exit each other's lives. In my second year in Cordoba, my life gradually found a new balance. I received a promotion at work, taking charge of larger projects. My social circle expanded beyond colleagues and the support group. I even tried dating, albeit cautiously and slowly. Gabriella and I maintained our friendship, occasionally having dinner or attending cultural events. Her wisdom and insight helped me through many difficult moments. Once, she asked if I regretted ending my relationship with Claire in such a dramatic way. "You could have quietly divorced, avoiding public scandal and legal proceedings," she pointed out. I thought for a moment, then answered. Initially, I did act out of anger and betrayal. But later I learned how many people Eduardo had hurt and would continue to hurt if no one stopped him. I paused. I don't regret exposing the truth, but sometimes I do wonder if I could have avoided all this by being more vigilant in my marriage. Gabriella shook her head. People choose betrayal because of flaws within themselves, not deficiencies in their partners. Claire's choices reflect her issues, not yours. This perspective helped me let go of some self-blame. I began to believe that regardless of what I did, if Claire had this tendency, betrayal would eventually happen. Meanwhile, I started contemplating the possibility of rebuilding trust. After experiencing such profound betrayal, could I ever completely trust another person again? This question was particularly prominent as I tried new relationships. About 2 years after meeting Gabriella, our relationship began to exceed friendship. It was a natural development, built on deep understanding and respect. Unlike the passion and drama with Claire, my relationship with Gabriella was calmer and more stable, but equally profound. I told her about my fear of trust, my worry about being hurt again. She understood these concerns, but also encouraged me not to let past shadows determine my future. "Trust always involves risk," she said. "But without trust, we cannot truly connect." Our relationship developed slowly as I learned to open my heart again. Not blind trust, but a conscious choice based on clear communication and mutual respect. 3 years later, I received unexpected news. Miguel, my old friend from Buenos Aires, told me Claire had died. A car accident, killed instantly. Although our relationship had long ended, this news still shocked me. Death has a strange way of making one reassess past relationships and emotions. Despite Claire's betrayal, we had once loved each other and shared important years of our lives. Her passing meant the only other witness to that shared history was gone. I decided to return to Buenos Aires for the funeral, with Gabriella accompanying me. Watching Claire's family and friends mourn, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: sadness, regret, a degree of relief, and nostalgia for lost youth. At the funeral, Claire's mother Maria recognized me and came over to hold my hand. "Thank you for coming, Daniel. Claire often said what she did to you was the biggest mistake of her life." These words touched something deep within me. Beneath all the anger and betrayal, there remained a connection, a bond of shared experience that couldn't be completely severed. After returning to Cordoba, I proposed to Gabriella, not because of Claire's death, but because I was finally ready. Ready to believe in the possibility of love again, ready to take risks. "Are you sure?" she asked, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of joy and caution. "I'm sure," I answered, "not because I think you'll never hurt me, but because I know that even if hurt, I can survive and move forward again." That's the most important lesson Claire taught me. Looking back on this journey, from that terrible Sunday morning until now, I realized that betrayal may destroy a relationship, but it need not destroy one's ability to love and trust. Claire chose betrayal, Eduardo chose manipulation and deception, but I chose truth and justice. Not out of pure revenge, but because lies only bring more pain. Truth does set you free, even if the process is painful. After exposing Claire and Eduardo's deception, I lost my marriage but found myself again. This wasn't the ending I wanted, but perhaps it was the one I needed. Today, as I share my life with Gabriella, I move forward with wisdom gained from past experiences. I am more vigilant, but not paranoid, more cautious, but still open. I've learned that trust isn't a blind act, but a continuous choice based on actions and consistency. Claire and Eduardo's story teaches us that true love isn't about complete freedom or breaking all boundaries, but about respect, honesty, and commitment. Freedom comes from choosing to love someone and honoring that commitment, not constantly seeking the next thrill or evading responsibility. The cost of betrayal is enormous, not only for the betrayed, but equally for the betrayer. Claire lost true love, dignity, and ultimately her life. Eduardo lost his freedom, and I lost the ability to trust blindly, but perhaps that was something that needed to be lost. In every relationship, we face choices: honesty or deception, loyalty or betrayal. These choices define who we are and what kind of life we will build. If this story has a lesson, it's that betrayal may provide momentary pleasure or excitement, but its shadow extends to all aspects of life, far beyond the initial act. Choosing honesty and loyalty, even in difficult times, creates a solid foundation for our relationships and inner peace. In the end, we are the sum of our choices. Claire chose betrayal, I chose truth, and now I choose to move forward, carrying scars and wisdom, but also the courage to love and be loved again. Because although life may break our hearts, we can still choose how to rebuild them. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more compelling content. We look forward to seeing you in our next story.